Hello, and welcome to Your Sparkly Brand. We're here to inspire and empower entrepreneurs just like you. This podcast is all about delivering no fluff, high value content that helps you to grow your business. It doesn't matter if you have no budget and you're still DIYing everything on your own. We're giving you the tips, tools, and strategies that you need to build a sparkly empire. I'm Megan Gersh, your branding and website expert, and I'm here with my co-host, the copywriting queen, Lauren Tassi. Hey, Lauren, how are you?
Hey, Megan, I'm good. And I am so excited to introduce our guest today, Jyll Saskin Gales. Jyll Saskin Gales is a marketing coach, consultant, and trainer. She advises business owners across industry and sizes, helping them get the best ROI from their marketing. Jyll teaches at Google, Camp Tech, Jelly Academy, Elevate, boutique agencies, Fortune 100 companies, and her own Learn with Jyll platform. She is Tock's resident at the_Google_Pro with more than 50,000 followers tuning in for her bite-sized actionable marketing tips. Jyll previously worked at Google for 6 years and has an MBA from Harvard Business School. Welcome to Your Sparkly Brand, Jyll.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
So, Jyll, before we jump into your story, we like to start each episode by telling our listeners about a sparkly moment of the week. It's basically like a little win or a celebration and just something that made you feel good and sparkly. So, Lauren, let's kick things off with you. Do you have any sparkly moments you'd like to share?
Yeah, so I've been working on expanding my business and, really growing into offering more services with my agency. And I'm working with coaches and some advertising people right now. And I really my hesitation at first was like, oh, I don't know. They're really different than me. They all seem very male driven. And I don't know if they're going to get me or my audience. It's made me realize that that's my superpower, right? Is being able to stand out and be sparkly and be my website's all pink. And they're not used to working with people like that, but that's what's going to make me better at what I'm doing is because I'm different than what they normally do.
I love that.
What's yours, Meg?
So I've been working with a developer on a website. I mentioned it a few other times in the podcast, but we are basically in the thick of development right now. And I just literally right before this recording, I met with her and she has gotten so much amazing work done on the website. It just feels so good to be able to hand off a piece of the project like that and really just trust that, they're going to do an amazing job. And that has really freed up a lot of time in my business to work on my business things that I need to get done. And so, yeah, that's making me feel a little sparkly. I'm loving it. And Jyll, do you have a sparkly moment that you want to share?
I do. I'm actually also redoing my website. That feels like the business owner thing, always redoing the website. I was debating whether to DIY, outsource, decided to DIY it with Squarespace, and it's going really smoothly. I'm 90% done. Hopefully by the time this episode comes out, the new website will be launched. So I'm feeling really good about that. Just working on all my kind of SEO directs and technical stuff now, which is not my expertise, but I'm learning.
I saw your post about that. I'm so excited to see once you launch the new site. So congratulations.
Thank you. Well, heavily influenced by you. I know we met a couple months ago and you helped me really solidify my brand identity and the colors I'm using and the way I talk about my business. So all of that is definitely going into the redesign.
I love it. So why don't we kick things off by talking a little bit about your journey? How did you come to start your business?
Totally by accident. I came to start my business really out of necessity. I worked at Google for 6 years. I had a great experience there, but just was at a point where I had been challenged as much as I could be challenged there. And I received an offer to go be the CMO at a startup. And I took that offer. And unfortunately, I only worked at that startup for 2 weeks. It turned out to just not be a good fit on either side. So I found myself unemployed after earning very nice money and benefits at Google and just needing to earn money. And I was like, what do I know how to do? I know how to do Google ads. And so I just started posting TikTok videos really out of desperation, just to show I know Google ads. Maybe I can get a few clients till I figure out what to do with my life. And then was very fortunate that after 10 days on the platform, I had a video go viral. My inbox was overflowing. And that's how my business began. So when I first started, I was just, $500 here, getting Google ads campaigns live for small business owners. And now 18 months later, I don't do Google ads management anymore. I'm focused on teaching and coaching and training in Google ads and also organic marketing topics. And I love it. But yes, total accident.
That's the best way, I think. All right. So can you give us Google Ads 101? I feel like this is something I tend to nod along with when people start talking about Google Ads. I have a basic idea, but I don't really know. So let's just can you give us your base level? How does Google Ad works? Why should we use it?
Absolutely. So the first thing I'll say is not every business owner should use Google Ads. And you won't hear many Google Ads practitioners say that. So first off, it's not for everyone, but what is Google Ads? How do you know if it's for you? At its core, when we think of Google, the search engine, And so Google Ads is just a way to let you show ads to people who are searching for things, because people type into that little white box on Google exactly what they're looking for. It's a marketer's dream. If someone is looking for, purple organic hair dye versus brown hair dye versus whatever, like they're saying exactly what they want. And so if you sell that, you can show them an ad, and Google Ads is the platform that lets you do that. And of course, over time, Google Ads has become more and more complex and more powerful. So now through Google Ads, yes, you can run Google search ads, but it's also how you run ads on YouTube, or how you can run ads to get people to install your app from the Google Play Store, or how you can run ads on something called the display network, showing image-based ads across the internet. So really, it's a way to grow your business, find new customers, make more sales. But I think the thing most people get wrong about Google Ads, unfortunately, is they're like, okay, I'm starting my business, let's run some ads. But ads don't bring revenue. Ads bring more people to your digital front door. It's still your website's job to convert those people into customers. And so that's why I generally say, as much as I love teaching people about Google Ads and helping them with Google Ads, I don't advise it for new business owners. It's really great once you have hit some traction and are starting to scale your business, and then you want to scale faster. You kind of pour ads as that fuel on that fire to really grow and scale.
I think that's so important, what you just mentioned about like how ads are essentially not a silver bullet. And so many businesses, when they first start, they think like, okay, I just need to make sales. I need to make sales. Maybe if I dump money into this, I'll make sales. And that's just like simply not the case, especially when you're first starting and you don't really have like an adequate budget for something like that. So, I mean, I definitely want to talk a bit more about that. But like the first thing that's coming to mind too is like we have Google ads and we have Facebook ads, we have YouTube ads, there's even TikTok ads now. So like, does Google still have a leg up on those other ad platforms, or are there differences that people need to be aware of?
There are definitely differences. So when you're first getting started with ads, the way to decide whether Google ads and search ads specifically are right for you versus something like Facebook ads, TikTok ads, or YouTube ads is to think, does my product solve a problem that people are looking for, or do I need to educate them first? So for example, do people come to Google looking for my product, even if not my specific brand, I'm looking at you, Meg, saying like purple hair dye, like are people already looking for that? Or do people need to be educated about the fact that they have a problem and my product is the solution? So I think, for example, there were these TikTok ads last year for this dancing cactus. You may have seen them before, toy. Like no one was going to Google and searching for a dancing cactus toy. But if you saw that, you were like, oh my God, I need that, right? So there's different kinds of buying behavior. So if you have a product that has a lot of search interest, people are looking for a solution, absolutely Google search is great. If you have one of those products where some education or information is needed to show someone that they need your product, then a more visual or video-based ad is better. And so that's where something like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube ads can be a better place to start.
So you mentioned not having, an optimized website, and you mentioned not thinking through what your customer is searching for. Are there any other mistakes you see people making with Google ads?
Wow, there are so many, but I think at its core, when business owners come to me and say my ads aren't working, or, my agency's not working out, or something's not going right, it comes down to either they don't really know who their target customer is, or maybe they do know their target customer, but their ads just suck. Whether it's a text ad or an image ad or a video ad, right? People can spend so much time tinkering in the minutia of an account that they forget all the end user sees is the ad, and they either click on it or don't. So it's either you don't know your target audience, or maybe you do, but your ads suck, or maybe your ads are great, but then your landing page really let people down. It's the digital equivalent of like a convenience store on the corner in shambles with food scattered in all the aisles and no one can find their way to the checkout. So that's why I say before running ads, you want to make sure you have a website that converts. And I actually came up with something I call the rule of two. And it's really simple to calculate. With your website, you need to know what is your conversion rate, meaning of all the people who visit your website, how many do the thing you want them to do, buy something, become a lead. And then what's your average order value? How much money do you make on average when someone buys something or becomes a lead? And if you multiply those two numbers together, your conversion rate and your average order value, my rule of two says you want that to be at least $2 before running ads. And the reason for that is because that $2 in marketing speak is something called your revenue per session. So basically every time someone lands on your website, given your average conversion rate, your average order value, how much money do you make every time someone lands on your website? So if your conversion rate times average order value equals 2. That means on average, every time someone lands on your website, you make $2. Lovely. Now, ads can cost anywhere from 50 cents to $100 per click, but generally, when you're first getting started, somewhere in the $1 to $2 per click is reasonable. So if you're spending $1 to $2 per click, you make $2 when someone lands on your website, potentially things work out well. Whereas if you're only making 50 cents every time someone lands on your website, you'd want to be spending $2 to bring them there. So that's my kind of quick and dirty rule of 2, your conversion rate times your average order value. If it's less than $2, you're probably not ready to start running ads yet. You want to improve your conversion rate and or improve your average order value.
So I just had 2 questions kind of pop up when you were talking about that. So you mentioned that sometimes when you review people's ads, their ads just suck. So how does somebody make an unsucky ad? And my other question is, I know that in a lot of ad platforms, there is what's called like a learning phase. Like how much can businesses expect to pay in pricing and in timeline in that learning phase?
I'll start with the learning phase question first, because Google Ads works quite differently from Facebook ads. Facebook ads says we need to get 50 conversions to learn. And so it's up to you and your budget. That could take a day, that could take 3 months, 50 conversions. Google's a bit different. Generally, your learning period is about a week or so. If you're a smaller business with a smaller budget, and by smaller budget in Google Ads, I mean $1,000 a month or less, maybe 2 to 3 weeks is more how long things will take to learn. Whereas when I worked at Google, I worked with businesses that spent $1 million a day on ads. So they didn't have a learning period. They would just set stuff live and it would spend and it would learn right away. But on average, I'd say about a week for things to learn. And when I say things to learn, like what's actually happening? You know, the algorithms are putting your ads in front of all different kinds of people. They're putting your ads in different combinations, you know, mix and matching different pieces of text and images and everything to figure out who's most likely to convert. And so the more time it has to gather more data, show your ads to more people, learn who's converting and who's not, the more they'll be able to drive better results for you. And so the first part of your question, how do you create unsucky ads? A few things to keep in mind, which I think is the same with organic content too. You want to make sure that your ad appeals to your targets and speaks their language. So if you're in the B2B space in a really niche industry, go ahead and throw in that industry jargon so people know that you're really speaking to them. Versus if you're selling lip gloss or candles, you're not going to want to use jargon about the way that stuff is manufactured. That wouldn't appeal to your target audience. And then you also want to make sure that your ads have some kind of call to action, like saying, you know, shop now, learn more, sale ends tonight, you know, sense of urgency helps as well. And then some kind of social proof people often forget about in their text ads. You know, how many years you've been in business? Do you have 5-star reviews? Have you been featured in certain publications? Rather than the ad just saying, we sell candles, buy our candles, check out our organic candles on sale. We have candles. I see so many people do that. And it's like, how boring. You wouldn't click on that. Why would someone who's never heard about you before?
Let's go back to pricing for a second. Are there price kind of like recommendations when you start Google Ads with like a small business owner? Is there like a minimum ad requirement that you recommend? I know you mentioned the $1,000 mark is kind of like the when you work with larger brands, but like, is there first the small business owner? Is Google Ads really even on the table for them?
It is. My recommendation is if you can't spend at least $20 a day for at least 30 days and potentially see zero ROI, don't spend the money on ads. That would be $600 a month. And that's kind of the bare minimum, in my opinion, for a small local business. And the reason for that is because if we're talking about search ads, a $2 cost per click is like a reasonable expectation of a starting point. So if you're spending $20 a day, that means you're getting 10 clicks a day. So you're getting 10 people visiting your website a day. That's actually not very much. Assuming you have a 1% conversion rate, which is pretty typical for businesses in their first year, that means you're going to have to run ads for, on average, 10 days just to get one conversion. It's a really slow burn that way. And then, of course, when you first launch ads, it's unlikely that on day one, you're going to have the perfect ads that are magically going to bring in lots of money. It takes time to adapt and learn. So as a rule of thumb, if you can't afford to spend at least $600 over the course of a month and potentially see no return on that investment, then I'd say save your money, don't spend it on ads, and focus on your organic content marketing instead.
That's really good advice. What should a business owner do when setting up their Facebook or Google ads to avoid getting banned?
To avoid getting banned, obey the policies. I know that sounds simple, but there are certain industries that on both platforms have restrictions. So if you're in the employment industry, housing, healthcare, understandably, for good reason, there are restrictions on what you can and can't do. So those industries have a lot of problems. But assuming you're not in some kind of restricted industry, you want to make sure that the information in your ads and on your landing page is truthful. Like Google can actually look at that. Another common one is you don't want to use someone else's trademarks. So let's say you have a running shoe company. You are not allowed to use Nike or Adidas in your ads. You could have them on your landing page. That's actually totally allowed to mention them on your website as long as you don't say anything false about them. But you're not allowed to mention them in your ads themselves, because the reason is it can cause consumer confusion if someone's Googling running shoes and your ad says Nike in it and people would think, oh, this is a Nike ad. It's actually not only a bad user experience, but illegal. So those are the first few things I'd say is, better to not be in a regulated industry. It's always easier. Make sure your ads are truthful. Make sure you don't infringe on people's trademarks. Those are some of the most common problems. Another really silly one is if you set up your account, your payment method could get declined from day one, and then you're just kind of buggered from there. I don't know why this happens, but it does. Anecdotally, this is a little insider tip I picked up from someone in the industry. I've heard that with Google ads, it's better to set up your account with a credit card than with PayPal. It's less likely to get disapproved. Go figure. If you are getting disapproved, you can appeal it. You can try to get help from Google. And then if it's really, really just like not working, just start a new Google Ads account and then see how you go.
I had a question too. I know that sometimes when you're doing searches on Google, sometimes you'll be served like multiple Google ads at the top of the search results. Is there a way that they rank those like first, second, third? Is it just based on budget, or how do they do that?
Oh yeah, so this is the foundation of how Google Ads works and why Google became the ginormous company it is today. It's something called ad rank. And so whether or not an ad shows and how high it shows has to do with price, how much the advertiser is willing to pay, because it's an auction. So like Megan, you go to Google and you search for best podcasting microphone. There are probably hundreds of advertisers who are all bidding in real time. And I want to show an ad, I want to show an ad, I want to show an ad. But it's not exactly like an eBay auction. If it was an eBay auction, whoever's willing to pay the most gets to show you the first, then second, then third, then fourth ad. What Google did really differently, and a lot of ad platforms have copied the concept, is they brought in this idea of quality, that how much someone's willing to pay is not the only thing that determines if they show an ad and how high they show an ad, the quality of the ad, how relevant it is to that user, and how likely it's going to lead them to what they're looking for. Because what Google doesn't want to happen is you click on the ad, go to the website, you're there for 5 seconds, and you're like, this isn't what I wanted. This is showing me speakers, not podcast microphones. And then you come back to Google and keep looking for the next result. Google notices that and says, ooh, that must have not been a good quality ad. So they'll ding you. And so the next time if that advertiser wants to show an ad, they'll actually have to pay more because their quality is lower. So in search ads, up to 4 ads can show above your organic search results. And then there's also shopping ads if you're searching for products. You might see kind of a whole row of images along the top. That's a different kind of ad format that kind of an infinite number of those can show as well.
It makes total sense. Are there other Google tools that you recommend for business owners when they're just starting out and they are trying to grow their business?
Absolutely. I would say number one is Google Analytics. We're in a weird time with Google Analytics because there's a new one that's come out, but the old one is still around. But Google Analytics is just a free tool from Google that allows you to understand what's happening on your website. Number one, for sure. Another one is your Google Business Profile, which used to be called Google My Business. A common misconception is that only physical businesses can have a Google Business Profile, but actually any business can have one. If you're an online-only business or a service provider, you don't have to make your address public. So that's another great free tool. And then the third one I'll recommend for e-commerce businesses specifically is a tool called Grow My Store. And what that tool does is you type in the URL of your website and Google will actually analyze your website and within 30 minutes send you a scorecard of like 20 things. And are you green, yellow, red? And how can you improve your conversion rate? And so I find of all the Google tools out there, that's like a really tactical, customizable one. That's called Grow My Store.
That's awesome. I haven't heard of that last one.
Yeah.
Is that like a fairly new tool? I'm like curious.
No, it's been around for years. And I'm telling you, I post a TikTok about it at least every single month. I've been on TikTok for 18 months and I still get people like you who are like, I've never heard of that before. I'm like, well, good. I'm going to keep on posting about it till you hear about it. There's probably a dozen or so of these tools Google has created, mostly for small business owners, and most people just haven't heard of. I guess perhaps Google doesn't focus as much time marketing these tools as they should. And that's why I exist and how I've been able to grow as the Google Pro by sharing these free tools to business owners.
So let me ask you this about that specific tool. For like, if a business owner is reading that list of recommendations, are they tactical things that they would be able to implement on their own? Would they need somebody that's a bit more tech savvy to implement those things? Because I know when I've done searches on Google Page Speed Insights, it's been like a lot more technical, right? Like, so like that's something where you might need to hire someone, developer, whatever to help you out with like fixing the JavaScript on your site or something like that?
Grow My Store is not like that at all. I agree. Page speed, great tool. No layperson can fix page speed on their own. But one of the recommendations, it might say like live chat. You don't have live chat on your website, and then it'll give you some stats about sites that offer live chat have, I'm making up this number, 30% higher sales or whatever. And so the recommendation is to add a live chat to your site. And of course, there's many different ways to do that. Or it might say like customer reviews. We didn't find any customer reviews and testimonials on your site. Here's a stat to show you why you should add them. And that's something you can do. It'll check if you have your return policy, what your shipping policy is. It'll look at your product images. It actually looks at your website automated and then tells you based on these 20 or so best e-commerce best practices, do you meet them all? And if not, why should you care? And then you can implement them yourself.
I love that. It's such a great tip.
Use it for my clients too.
There you go. Yeah.
Do you think, I'm just wondering, the DIY aspect of Google Ads, is that like, what's the learning curve there? Is it, if you're just starting, should you hire somebody? How doable is it on your own?
It's a commitment, like learning any new skill, right? Google Ads, and I would say the same applies to learning any ad platform or any marketing discipline. It's learning a whole new language, a whole new culture, a whole new set of customs. There's a lot of problem solving involved. So I meet some business owners who just really want to do it themselves, which is great. I meet others who say they want to do it themselves and they start trying to learn and they say, oh, I can't do this. And then they hire it out. And then others who just want to hire it out from the get-go. I will say though, even if you're hiring an agency or freelancer to manage your ads for you, you're still going to want to have some understanding of how things work, not how the sausage gets made, but like what the sausage should look like at the end, what kind of questions you should ask, what flavors it can come in. So what I would recommend, Google has something called Google Skill Shop, and that's where you can get the official Google Ads certifications, and they're free. And even if you don't want to take the certification, totally fine. I recommend going to Google Skill Shop, clicking on Google Ads, because there's training on other Google products there as well, and doing the training material for the search ad certification. It'll take about 3 hours at most, and that'll give you a basic understanding of the foundational principles of how Google Ads works. And if you finish those 3 hours of learning and you're like, this was so cool, this is so exciting, then you might want to learn how to manage Google Ads yourself. If you read that and you're like, oh gosh, I never want to read anything about this again, you're going to want to outsource, but at least now you have that foundational understanding of how it works. And then from there, of course, there are many free tutorials online. I have my own course inside Google Ads that I created for this very reason. There are a ton of great ways to learn Google Ads depending on your time and budget. I have some people who come to me and they say, look, I need to be a Google Ads expert in the next 4 weeks. And they throw down 4 figures at me and we do one-on-one training. And then I have other people who, sign up for the course, pay their $49 a month, and over time gradually learn. And everyone's different that way with their time and their money.
Love that. Yeah. And we'll definitely link up your course in the show notes as well if people want to check that out. So I want to shift gears here for just a second and talk a bit about how you've branded your business. How important has branding been in your business, and how have you kind of set yourself apart from other Google Ads folks?
Branding has been very important in my business. I chose the name the Google Pro initially. It was kind of the only thing available I could find that had Google in it. Initially, it served me really well. Now it's a little trickier, because although Google Ads is a huge part of what I do, I have many clients who I work with who I do marketing coaching or marketing training that has nothing to do with Google, but I'm still the Google Pro. So I think if I could go back and do that again, I may not make my brand Google centric. I will say the advantage I have in the space is that I did work at Google for 6 years. And so of course that adds the sense of legitimacy. Many people who hire me say, well, I saw you worked at Google, so I thought you have to know what you're doing. So that's been a great benefit to my business, of course. But one change I made recently with your help, actually, Meg, is when I first started my business, I used the Google colors, like the exact same hex codes, don't tell Google on me, of like the red, yellow, green, and blue from the Google logo, because people recognize that and like associate that with Google. But after being in business a year, I thought, I need my own brand identity. So I actually kept the blue because I really love that blue, but there's like no more red, there's no more green. I use a different yellow and teal now, and I've kind of built my own brand identity. I changed my logo. Again, I used to use the Google font for everything. Now I don't use the Google font for everything. So I'm in the process now of really transitioning my brand. Of course, I'm still the Google Pro. I'm proud of that, but there are other things I do as well. And so my brand's definitely evolving as my business is.
So if you could go back in time to when you were just accidentally starting your business, what's the most valuable piece of advice you could give yourself?
Oh, what's the most valuable piece of advice I could give myself when starting my business? I would say, listen to your gut. I think what I did really well when I started is after, leaving leaving Google and then leaving this company that didn't work out. It was quite a traumatic experience for me. And so I did give myself a few weeks to just like drink wine and eat chocolate and cry. Like that was needed before I was ready to go start my business. But once I started my business, I was very much like, go, 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 have to make as much money as possible, have to take on every client possible. And pretty quickly, I took on a few clients I should not have taken on. The red flags were there. Like one client got referred to me, and the person who referred this client said, he's a bit difficult to work with. And like, I should have listened to that. I was like, oh, I know how to handle difficult personalities. No problem. Yeah, that was the first time I ever had to issue a client a refund because I just could not work with him. And I wanted to refund him his money rather than continue to work with him. So I had a few situations like that where I took on projects that I perhaps shouldn't have, or clients that there were red flags that I ignored. And I don't do that anymore. But if I could go back and tell myself, I'd be like, even though this is the largest contract you've ever signed, it's not worth it when the guy's a jackass.
I feel like we have all learned that lesson at this point.
Yeah.
Everyone that's listening to this podcast or has listened to previous episodes has heard us talk about this time and time again.
Yeah. And it's worked out like now, there was a recent time this company reached out to me to create some TikTok videos for them. And I just got super bad vibes. One of the guys, he called my content cute. I was like, really? Like I'm a 35-year-old woman. What's cute about this? And I just got bad vibes from it. And I was like, you know what? Actually, I'm not interested anymore. And then a few weeks ago on TikTok, I see this well-known influencer create this video about how she had a horrible experience with a brand and they dragged her along and then didn't pay her. And then she named them and it was the same company that had reached out to me. And so I commented her like, I'm so sorry that happened to you, but it's like, okay, like I listened to my gut. There was this red flag where like this person doesn't respect me. And thank goodness, because this poor influencer, did do the whole project and then didn't get paid at the end because they ghosted her. Listen to your gut.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's awful.
Yeah.
Well, are there any projects that you're working on right now that you can talk about, that you're excited about? Tell us.
Yes, absolutely. I actually have 2 new courses I'm working on right now that I'm really excited about. They're both like halfway finished and I'm bouncing between them to try to finish them both. One is Google Ads for beginners. So my course is designed for people of all levels. I get a lot of people joining my course and they're just like, it's still so overwhelming. I need you to like really hold my hand, Jyll. Can you really hold my hand? So I have a course I'm building called Google Ads for beginners. And then I have another course I'm launching called the Growth Formula for Successful Entrepreneurs. And that's really come out of all the workshops I've been doing at a variety of startup accelerators like Google for Startups, the DMZ, Communitech, etc., where I talk about organic marketing, building a content marketing strategy, website optimization, how to improve your conversion rate, all of that stuff. I give these workshops again and again and again. And so I thought I can turn this into a course for those people who maybe aren't in a startup accelerator who want this information. So both of those will be on my Learn with Jyll platform. And I'm actually going on maternity leave March 1st. So I have to launch both of them before March 1st. That's my goal.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
So give us where can we find you online? What's your website, your handles, all that?
Yes, I am Jyll.ca. That's JYLL.ca. So hopefully you will see my new website by the time you go there right now. And then on social media, I'm the Google Pro, _Google_Pro. So I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Pinterest, I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn, all the places as to be. I used to get really like sensitive if I ran into someone and be like, oh, Jyll, I feel like I see you everywhere. Like, sorry. But now they'll say, Jyll, I see you everywhere. Good. My marketing is working. So that's how you can find me.
Awesome. And we'll put links to all that in the show notes for anybody who's listening. Thank you so much, Jyll, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's been such a pleasure.
And thank you to our listeners for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review and be sure to subscribe so you never miss one. Until next time, stay sparkly.